Hello, hello, brothers and sisters. It's a new week. We're very happy to welcome you to our show titled Speak of Africa. We have another great show for you today. But before we begin, we want to thank all our subscribers. And we're thanking you for taking part in the poll which we conducted last week. In this poll, we asked a question: who is exploiting Africa? And you guys answered the question in a very interesting fashion, because we noticed from a lot of the comments you guys have been making, some of the emails you've been sending to us, that you perceive Africa's problem to be colonial exploitation. You think Africa lacks development because Africa is being exploited by foreigners. And some of the countries you chose were Russia, China, the United States of America, and France. So we asked the question, who is exploiting Africa? You guys said 60% of the exploitation of Africa comes from France. 20% of the exploitation of Africa comes from the United States of America. 10% of the exploitation of Africa comes from Russia. 10% of the exploitation of Africa comes from China. So that's the composition. It is against this backdrop that we're going to present our show of today. And when you look at the exploitation of Africa, you guys tend to blame what we call the nation state, which is a creation of the Berlin Conference. When the Scramble for Africa took place, then independence followed, what I call pseudo independence. The whole of Africa was mapped by boundaries, which are artificial. These are all colonial boundaries. They were used to divide different tribes into nations, which are not really tenable. In Nigeria, for example, you have over 159 ethnic groups. Then you try to put them as a nation. But you know, in Africa, people's fidelity, people are loyal to their family, to their clan, to their tribe first. Then they may be loyal to the region. Then the country is last on the list. Which is why when a dictator comes to power, he tries to surround himself with people from his tribe, people from his family. Those are the only people he trusts. He doesn't trust people from other tribes. So that's why, with the case of the exploitation of Africa, the original sin of the African nation state is the creation of what I call imperial presidents. Who is an imperial president? An imperial president is a guy who is a leader of an African country. He does not really have the right to be president, but he was put there by the machinations of colonial forces like France, the United States of America, Russia, or China. They play games behind the scenes. They put him there. These are puppet presidents. But they wield unlimited power in Africa because they rule their countries by decree. Whatever they want goes. And this is deliberate. The colonial masters of those African countries, by design, put these people in power. Then they created this system so that nobody can check the president. If the colonial guys want natural resources, say from Cameroon, oil, for example, Paul Biya can unilaterally decide on his own to sell the oil of Cameroon without asking any other guy in Cameroon to account. He will not ask for advice from any other party. He decides this on his own. He will give everything to the colonial masters. Then, because he's a nice slave, the colonial master will create an offshore account for him in the islands or in Switzerland. When he retires from the presidency, or if a coup d'etat takes him out, then he can enjoy his loot in Switzerland peacefully. This is the way the imperial presidency works. These guys are like titans. They are like supermen. They are like super guys. You see what I'm saying? They have too much power. Okay? This is not good for Africa. And that's the phenomenon that we're discussing today. So when we start with France as a colonial power, or you may call it neo-colonial power. This week, we saw the commemoration of the 80th anniversary of Provence landings. You remember during the Second World War, most people know about the D-Day landings in Normandy. But what has not been given enough attention in history is the role Africans played to liberate Europe from the clutches of Hitler. They don't talk about that much. Africa had sharpshooters from Senegal and other African countries. These guys played a vital role to liberate Europe. Why did the Europeans not talk much about the Provence landings? Is it because the heroes of these landings were Africans? I think that's really the answer. Yes. Why would Europeans give credit to African soldiers? They are the unsung hero. So for the first time, Emmanuel Macron is trying to revise French history. He invited people like Paul Biya, Nasigbe Adema, and other colonial puppet presidents to France to celebrate the Provence landings. So it's against this backdrop that will tell you what Macron is doing actually is window dressing, because most of these people you call African presidents, I call them imperial presidents because they perceive themselves to be emperors. They rule their countries like kings. Nobody can ask the king to account for anything. His authority is absolute. Okay? So this is the divine right of kings. They have the right to be kings forever. And they are made kings not by divinity, but by colonialism. That's what is happening in most of these countries. And which is why you see that recently a lot of the young people in Africa are fighting back. They are challenging these people. They are not really taking things lying down. They are challenging them every day. And when you look at what is happening in Amazonia, every day you see soldiers from La République falling. They're falling like stones. The Amazonian Restoration Forces are taking them one soldier at a time. So how many more soldiers have to die before Biya would know that it is time for him to take his colonial army out of Amazonia? The landing in Provence was for the self-determination of the Europeans. So self-determination is good for Europeans, right? It's not good for Africans. Is that a story? That's the way the Europeans make us think. They need self-determination, but Africans don't need self-determination. Africans have to be slaves forever. That's basically the idea that I get. Because when you look at Cameroon, for example, Paul Biya was invited to this meeting. I even have pictures. You see the way some of the young guys from Cameroon, a lot of the activists, they went to France to challenge Paul Biya. They even went to Switzerland to challenge Paul Biya also. And we have a lot of videos to show you. In one video, you would even see the son of Paul Biya, Frank, who is being challenged. The guy is talking to Frank in a posh hotel, Carlton Hotel, posh hotel. There is no water in Cameroon. There are no resources, bad roads, but these are people who are squandering the wealth of Cameroon in hotels. In a night, you will not believe the millions Paul Biya spends with his entourage. Yet, the people of Cameroon are dying in poverty. And Biya also is a greedy gangster who is terrorizing the same people. Okay? So the problems are just insurmountable. Talking about Frank Biya, take a minute and see Frank Biya walking in this video.
Comme je disais tantôt, voici l'hôtel où loge le dictateur Biya. Ayant passé 42 ans au pouvoir au Cameroun sans rien faire pour le peuple camerounais, pays rempli de dictature, de crimes, de meurtres, de souffrances, de galères. Et regardez où il vient habiter. Regardez. Regardez. Je viens à peine d'être attrapé par la police. La police est venue m'interpeller, soit disant que oui, je suis menaçant pour M. Biya et que j'ai décidé de faire irruption dans son hôtel. Et effectivement, quand ils m'ont amené, ça a d'abord été très chaud entre nous. Et quand ils m'ont amené, directement, M. Biya a sauté dans la première voiture pour partir. Et là maintenant, dans cet hôtel, il paraît, il ne reste plus que son bataillon. En gros, ça veut dire le consul, il y a encore, et quelques personnalités. J'ai pris en photo également, c'est ça l'entrée. J'ai pris en photo le consul à partir d'une fenêtre en train de guetter. Vous voyez comment c'est? Imaginez-vous combien ça coûte la nuit ici. Imaginez-vous combien ça coûte la nuit ici. Regardez, admirez. Regardez. Regardez vous-même. Paul Biya n'est qu'un assassin. Un assassin. Il n'a qu'à retourner au Cameroun. Il n'a qu'à retourner au Cameroun. Voilà Frambia, regardez. Monsieur Fram, bonsoir. Vous allez bien? Je peux voir votre papa? Est-ce que vous savez que la police m'a attrapé tout à l'heure? La police m'a attrapé tout à l'heure, vous savez ça? Parce que je veux parler avec votre père. Il ne trouve pas que 40 ans, 42 ans au pouvoir, c'est énorme, monsieur Franck. C'est énorme. Nous sommes à Cannes. La démocratie y est. Libérez notre pays. Regardez. C'est celui-là qui compte diriger notre pays. Ça doit être difficile, hein? Ça doit être difficile. J'ai déposé une plainte contre votre papa et contre son équipe ici. Assassin comme ça.
Okay? Next, you talk about bad roads. There are so many bad roads in Cameroon. Since if you want to see, even in Yaoundé, you see garbage heaps. Take a look.
Arrondissement de Gabon. Voilà comment les protecteurs forestiers dégradent totalement la route. Regardez vous-même. Regardez vous-même. Un camion fumé qui entre en pleine saison de pluie et n'arrive pas à grimper la colline de Lombo, arrondissement de Gabon, dans le département de Niangoué. Regardez comment le gouvernement a décidé de dégrader la route. Il ne peut pas le confiner depuis 25 ans. Regardez.
Wait, wow. That will be kind of a video will be better.
Mamani. On peut passer pendant c'est pas moi qui passe. Vous parlez alpha. Maintenant vous demandez alpha c'est où? On vous pose la question. Deux mois.
Ouais, votre chauffeur il est calé, vous le laissez.
C'est pas possible. Mon Dieu, je tout vois ici. On le voit même sur la route, la poubelle partout. Il y a alors un chien dessus.
See the garbage heaps? Okay. Then, of course, those who want to criticize this Biya government, the dissenters are either killed, jailed, or thrown out of the country. Of course, Lady Pons, for example, is a popular artist. She started talking against the Biya regime. The Biya regime is reacting by creating fake accusations against her. talking about tax evasion, illegal activity. But is that going to silence Lady Pons? I don't think so. Lady Pons is not alone. You have Richard Bona, another popular jazz player from Cameroon. He is also criticizing. He's using his voice to amplify the voices of the poor people in La République du Cameroon. So how is this going to end? 2025 is coming, and they don't want the people to talk, and they still want Biya to stay in power. If you look at a lot of the pictures in Europe, they show you that Biya is finished. Biya cannot do much. So Biya is not the one running the country. He has his tribesmen who are running things for him. So they're just using him as a smokescreen so that they can continue his rule, even though they are the ones ruling. And that's the tragedy of La République du Cameroon. France thinks it's okay because France is getting a lot of resources from La République du Cameroon. All the oil, all the wood goes to France. Interestingly, there's a caterpillar that was stuck. This caterpillar was transporting wood from the bush. The road was so bad, the caterpillar could not even ply through this road to carry the wood. And this wood belongs to whom? It belongs to Frank Biya, the president's son. It looks like he has a monopoly on all the exploitation of wood in this part of the world. This is really interesting when you look at what is happening in La République du Cameroon. From Cameroon now, we'll take you to Burkina Faso.
$25,000 to $250,000 per year made easy. Do you dream about making big money? Well, we all do. Imagine joining pharmacy professionals to earn good money. Statistics show that the big pharma industry rules and controls America like a colossus. Do you want to find more details about the hidden gem? Join the Pharmacy Success crew now. Become a pharmacy professional today. Let us train you as pharmacy techs, foreign pharmacy graduates, USA pharmacy students. Learn to earn. We offer affordable online and offline programs. Act now. Browse our website for details, pharmacyprof.com, or call 301-760-0335.
Burkina Faso also is another country. They are a former colony of France. They've had many coups d'etats. Okay, the first one was conducted by Thomas Sankara. Then after that, Kabore took over the country. They just deposed him. And now you have Mr. Traoré, Ibrahim Traoré, as the leader. We hear over 100 soldiers were killed by jihadists in an ambush. So when we see this, we say to ourselves, is militarization the only option? We've been singing on this show every week that militarization is limited. We like the fact that our people are leaving the orbit of colonial masters such as France and the United States. They are going to Russia. I know a lot of our audience, they love Russia because Russia does not have the history of colonizing countries in Africa. Yet, we are saying, let's just be cautious. We love Russia, right? Yeah. But Russia can be a friend. But in international politics, there's no such thing as friendship. There is interest. We just have to be careful that Russia should not be a second colonial master. That's all I'm saying. I don't hate Russia the way some people think. I'm simply saying that let's open our eyes. Trust but verify. Don't just close your eyes and make friends with Russia. Because already we're seeing that Russia is getting a lot of the resources too. Okay? Russia is also participating in the game of exploitation of Africa. Whether you like it or not, you can see the poll we conducted. Next, we take you to Chad. In Chad also, you can see the Imperial Presidency. Idriss Déby was president for so long. He was propped by France. Yet, when he's killed by jihadists, who took over? You just imagine he died on the eve of an election. He declared himself the winner. And what happened after that? Sad. His friend connived to take over power and jail and kill a lot of his relatives. So he makes decisions like an imperial president. And that's what is wrong in Africa. Imperial presidents, imperial presidency. In Chad, this young man, Mahatma Déby, has become the imperial president. He was wearing military fatigues. He has traded them now for civilian outfits. Is there any change? No. He has all the arms. France provides him the weapons. He uses these weapons to fight the rebels. In many occasions, when his father was the president of Chad, he suffered in the hands of the rebels. Sometimes the rebels came close to N'Djamena, the capital of Chad. It was as a result of the French forces that these rebels were vanquished. So without French support, Chad cannot exist as we see it today. So imperial presidents are presidents because they are supported by the colonial master. The people don't want these presidents, but these presidents are imposed upon the poor people of Africa, and which is why you're seeing a lot of protests in Africa. This is why you're seeing a lot of people calling about the African Spring. There's a new spring in Africa. The young people are frustrated. They want change. They want to get rid of all this colonial nonsense. They want self-determination, because they think the only way Africa can have a better life is if Africa is free. Africa has a lot of resources, but Africa cannot develop because most of this elite connive with the Western powers to keep Africa poor. Okay? And that's the tragedy in Chad. Chad is not limited. When you go to the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, you see the same problem. Paul Kagame has been president for so long. He has been waging war all the time in the east of Congo DRC. He needs the resources that are in Congo. His country does not really have a lot of resources, so he feeds off the resources of Congo DRC. The only way he can get these resources is by creating confusion, the confusion of war. He uses the fog of war to go in the dark and steal the resources of Congo DRC. You would imagine that a country that doesn't have any minerals is refining minerals every day. These are blood diamonds. These are blood minerals. But Paul Kagame is using them. His army is the proxy M23. A peace initiative was declared, but is the peace holding? We hear there's fighting that is continuing between the M23 and the Congolese forces. So Paul Kagame is a bad guy, but he just won re-election because he has Western support. The guys in the West are providing him all the weapons to crush the opposition and stay in power. So he can run so many times, and he always wins 91, 92% of the vote, right? This is a joke, right? Then we go to Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast is another example of a country where you have imperial presidents. Alassane Ouattara is a quintessential imperial president. He's greedy, okay? He's a gangster. Sometimes you hear of political parties. No political parties really exist in Africa. Most of these political parties are gangs. In Cameroon, you hear about the CPDM. It's a gang. In Nigeria, you hear about the APC. It's a gang. These parties do not believe in any ideology. They believe in their tribes usurping the instrument of state, then using it to steal all the resources for themselves at the detriment of the common people. That's sad, okay? Then, of course, Kenya. You ask yourself, what's happening in Kenya? You think that in Kenya, we have a democratically elected president, William Ruto. What is happening? Well, Ruto is an instrument of the West. We've said it on so many shows. When Ruto visited Washington, D.C., he was feted like America's best friend. He's not a member of NATO, but he was treated like a king. Why? Because he is a puppet. He's selling his country, which is why some of the guys who are friends to Uhuru Kenyatta, they want to challenge William Ruto in the next election. And they are getting the help of a lot of lobbies from Washington to do this. Then what about Mali? In Mali, we also hear that jihadists are killing a lot of soldiers. Things are not well. Coup d'etats took place because of the politics of exclusion, okay? What about Niger? Niger is also another country in the Sahel region where coup d'etats have taken place and people are dying every day because the jihadists are fighting for power with the puppet governments. So even though the new government that are represented by juntas are in power, but the people don't really have a voice to speak. So Niger is only going through tough times. Then what about Nigeria?
Tired of waiting in long lines at the emergency room or your doctor's office? You should be. Why wait in long lines for care? It's time for you to come to Lucille Urgent Care. Real care, no waiting. Lucille Urgent Care, the best place for true and loving care. Service at Lucille Urgent Care is convenient, fast, time-efficient, affordable, accessible, transparent, and cost-effective. Royal treatment is your right. Indeed, it's not just a privilege or pejorative. Skip the emergency room's long lines, kiss the ER goodbye, say farewell to your old doctor's office, pay less, save time, enjoy the excitement of convenience, receive immediate treatment, get the healthcare you need quickly and affordably. Lucille Urgent Care offers many express services: rapid COVID-19 testing, on-site prescription, preventative lab services, imaging and x-rays, urgent medical treatment for common illnesses and injuries, routine vaccines and flu shots, work-related injury services, pre-employment, occupational, annual, and sports physicals, immigration exams, and much more. Same-day treatment, rapid lab results, extended hours, weekend hours, no appointment necessary, no insurance necessary, no doctor necessary, walk-ins accepted, telemedicine available. We are open 7 days a week with evening and weekend hours. We are located in Maryland. Lucille Urgent Care, 903 Half York Road, Towson, Maryland, 21204. Website, lucilleuc.com. Call at 443-275-1286 or 301-593-4897.
Well, in Nigeria, we still deal with the issues of insecurity, but the issue of inflation is even bigger. Okay? A few weeks ago, protests erupted. They killed a lot of martyrs of freedom. But the problem remains. You cannot sweep it under the rug. The problem remains in Nigeria. Serious. Even the government is cash-strapped. You heard a few days ago that the Nigerian government and in Ogun State, they could not pay their bills. The Chinese seized their planes. I think they seized over 3 planes because of non-payment. After some negotiations, they started releasing Nigeria. Why can they be going through stuff like this? Why? They are going through stuff like this because Bola Tinubu is a demigod. He can make decisions without asking anybody for advice. He can squander the money of Nigeria. He can take all the oil. That's his property. But this is creating a problem. So now we also have another example of an imperial president, a greedy gangster. Okay? So the APC is not really a political party. It has no ideology. Because to me, that's the yardstick of a political party. You need to have an ideology. Yeah? This APC party is not different from other parties in Africa. They have no ideology. They believe in nothing. They believe in greed and the resources of the country. So long as they can squander these resources, they are fine. So in Nigeria, you have so many tribes that have been forced to become a nation, but it's not a nation. So what we need is to work on this. Then, of course, insecurity. Students were going to a university in Benue. They were kidnapped. As of we speak, they've not been released yet. So this is the tragedy in Nigeria. What about Senegal? Well, we saw some bright news. Okay, Senegal has launched a satellite into orbit. So you think that, oh, this is great for Africa, but Senegal did this with the help of France and the United States. France and the United States again? Oh no, this is not good. So I'm not really praising Senegal for this because they did not really do this on their own. America and France did this for them. And guess what? He who pays the piper dictates the tune. So Senegal cannot do much. It seems the honeymoon of PM Ousmane Sonko is coming to an end. The press is really angry because Ousmane Sonko is trying to curtail their freedom. That's not good. You will not imagine that the same Ousmane Sonko that came into power by criticizing Macky Sall, he has started doing the same dirty games Macky Sall was playing. Is that good? No. What about Somalia? Well, in Somalia, Al-Shabaab militants were killed. We hear over 10 of them were killed because they said they are fighting the government. Then what about Uganda? Uganda is another example of an imperial presidency. Yoweri Museveni has been president. He's going to stay there forever. He look at his son may even take over. So when you talk about an imperial president, it's a president who looks at himself as an emperor. He is reigning over an empire. so nobody can ask him any questions. He's not accountable to anyone. So is that a good thing in Africa? We don't think so. So what can we do to turn things around? What is the future? We think the future can be summarized in a few words. The solution is, 1, political. Under the political solution, we need to create an African parliament. We need to convert the African Union into an African parliament, just like what you have in the EU. Okay? So that will be the solution. I'm just giving you the headlines. Then we can develop this into a blueprint. Second, on the economic side, we need to develop a single currency for Africa. Then we need to have more intertrade in Africa. Right now, a lot of African countries are trading with Europe, America, and China. But they need to start trading with other African countries. Inter-African trade needs to really grow. Third, the problem is social. On the social realm, we need to tear down these colonial borders. Right now, Africa has too many countries, and these are artificial countries. We need to tear these borders so that trade can flow, so that Africans can travel from one country to another without having a lot of restrictions. This is what we need to have. For example, in the United States, you can travel from California to Texas without having laissez-passer here, laissez-passer there. That's what we need. People need to travel easily without a lot of restrictions. Then at the same time, in order for this to happen, we need to have a national army. A national army should take care of our interests. So we will not be depending on French bases, America's bases to protect us. We don't need America's bases. We don't need French bases. The French bases are there to protect French interests, which are material interests, mercantile interests. Okay? So summarily, these are 3 areas that we can tell you that we need to look into so that we can solve Africa's problem, so we can get rid of the imperial presidents. Please, these are my own ideas, these are my opinions and my suggestions. Tell us, what do you think? What should we do? Bye-bye.
Do you need tax preparation services? We can help. Contact PJ Tax Service, America's only full-time income tax preparers. Like the good old doctor, we do not close our doors after April 15th. In fact, we stay open all year round in order to serve you. We are located at 11207A, Lockwood Drive, Silver Spring, Maryland, 20901. Make an appointment today with Prince Ojong, your tax expert. Call 240-350-1131 or visit us on the web at www.pjtaxservice.com.
Selling a service or a product? Need buyers? Use the African Nation TV as a channel to reach many viewers. Act now and call Prince Ojong at 240-350-1131. That's 240-350-1131. Act today.